Hey teachers, Tarun Stevenson here for Calmer Classrooms. In this episode, we're going to be talking about confronting behaviour but avoiding the argument. Come on, let's get into it. Okay, in this episode, we are going to be talking about how to confront behaviour, or misbehaviour, I should say, with while still avoiding an argument. I'm going to give you 5 keys on how you can address behaviour in a way that actually fosters relationship rather than destroys or breaks down a relationship. This episode's brought to you by the Behaviour Management Blueprint, which is my free ebook and video course that will teach you the 5 fundamentals of behaviour management. So you can get that for free by clicking the link in the description. All right. Let's go into the 5 fundamentals of how to confront behavior without having an argument. Okay, and the first thing is this: whenever you have a conversation with somebody about their misbehavior, or whether it's a student or a colleague or a leader, you need to start with appreciation. Recognize what they do right. If you appreciate them, show them that you see what they've done right, then what it does is it helps to diminish the defensive posture. If you just go straight in with the negative comment or the correction, immediately you'll have a defensive posture. They are more likely to argue with you. Whereas when you start off with a positive approach and just say, hey, I just want to have a chat with you. I love the way that you're working at the moment. I love the way that you fitted into the class. You know, it's been really great to see you focusing, whatever it might be. I just need to talk to you about a particular behavior that's having a negative effect on the classroom. And then you can go into it. So what that does is it just softens the blow, if you like, or softens the confrontation, and helps to avoid defensiveness. Okay, so start with showing appreciation for something they do well and what they are good at. The second thing is this: you need to try, first of all, responding to misbehavior indirectly. What that means is acknowledging the misbehavior without bringing attention to it or drawing too much public attention to it. So one of the things that you can do in the classroom is parallel acknowledgement, where you might say, have a child that's calling out and you speak to the child next to them and say, hey, I love the way you're putting up your hand. What you're doing is you're saying to the child that's calling out, I can see that you're calling out, but I'm not going to focus directly on your behavior. I'm going to let you know what I'm waiting for. And by praising the person that's doing the right thing, you're indirectly addressing their negative behavior. Another way you can do it is to be a little bit more light-hearted about what they're doing. So, you know, sometimes you have students that have their phone out and they're watching a movie or some kind of thing, and you might walk up behind them very quietly, and rather than rousing on them for having their phone out in the lesson, you might say something like, what are we watching today? And so you let them know you've seen the phone, but you don't make a huge deal of it. And then they say, oh, nothing. Okay, I don't want to see your phone, put it away. So another way of addressing it indirectly might be, let's say you've got somebody who's chewing gum in the class and you have a rule about gum. You might say, hey, while you're giving out gum, can I have a piece, because I'd like to chew my gum after school. And then what you're doing is you're telling them the appropriate place to chew gum is not in the classroom but after school, but you're not making a big fuss about it. Okay, so that's the second one. Respond to misbehavior indirectly. The third way you can address behavior is to talk about your mistakes first. When I was a behavior advisory teacher, and I'd often have students come to my classroom who would have been kicked out of their class. They'd been red carded. And once I knew what the behavior was, one of the techniques I would use to calm them down and get them listening to me was I would actually tell them a story about when I was in school. Hey, you know, when I was in school, I used to get in trouble a lot for doing things that my teacher didn't want me to do. And I tell them about myself getting in trouble and getting the cane. And it sort of makes them sit up and they're like, oh, wow, you're a teacher, but you used to get in trouble. You used to get the cane. And so it makes them more responsive to what you're saying and say, hey, look, I know you're having some trouble in this class. Let's talk about it. What's going on? And it helps them to be more receptive, because they see you as if you like, a colleague rather than somebody who's coming down on top of them, because they see you as somebody who's made mistakes as well. Okay. Now, the Fourth thing you can do to confront behavior without and avoiding the argument is this: you can start by asking questions rather than giving directions. One of the things that I always like to do when I'm in a class and I see somebody that's off task is I don't come immediately over and say, why aren't you writing, or why aren't you doing your work, or why are you talking. I don't start with the confrontation. What I do is I start with asking, hey, are you okay? Do you need any help? Have you got any challenges that I can help you with? And if they're saying no, or no, there's nothing wrong, then say, okay, well, I'd like you to get back to your work, please. And so by starting with questioning rather than calling out the behavior, what you're doing is you're showing support, you're showing an understanding that maybe there is a potential that they need help. You're giving them a chance to respond to you positively before you actually call out the behavior, and that way it softens the confrontation and avoids or minimizes the argument. And the fifth thing, the last thing, is help them to save face. This is particularly important for boys. Boys are very sensitive to public humiliation or public shame, and so as much as you can, never call out behavior in front of a class. Try to do it quietly, privately, especially if you have to get really stern with them about something. Then try to do it privately so that it doesn't cause them to lose face with their peers. The other thing that you should try to avoid is making an example of students in front of their peers, telling everybody what they've done, or telling everybody how their behavior is inappropriate. By doing that, you just humiliate them, and when students feel humiliated, especially boys, they feel the need to pay you back with equal humiliation, and so they will do some pretty dastardly things like call you names and attack you or go on the defense. And so you've got to really be looking to help your students to save face and not embarrass them or humiliate them in front of their peers. So that's 5 ways that you can having my tongue tied today. That's 5 ways that you can actually confront behavior or misbehavior and try to minimize or avoid arguments in the process. So let's just recap. The first one was to begin by showing your appreciation. Tell them what they do well. Tell them what you're proud of. Tell them what you appreciate about them. The second thing is respond to misbehavior indirectly. Look for ways to highlight the behavior without going head on towards it. The third one is to talk about your mistakes. Tell them a story about when you used to get into trouble, or when you struggled with something, or you found it difficult to do the right thing. The fourth is to ask questions rather than giving orders. And the last one is you need to help them avoid losing face. So don't embarrass them or humiliate them. Okay, so that's my 5 keys. I hope that was really helpful. If you've enjoyed this and you'd like to go deeper, check out some of our online courses. Behavior Management Essentials and Understanding and Educating Boys are both available on karmaclassrooms.today/online, and you can see that link down in the description. And if you've enjoyed it, share it with somebody, hit the subscribe button so you keep up to date, and we'd love to hear from you. So give us a comment and a like, and I look forward to talking to you next time. I'm Tarun Stevenson for Karma Classrooms.